Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, concern over increased groundwater pumping in rural parts of the state. Also tonight, why the Arizona Republic has stopped endorsing political candidates this election cycle. And controversy over the border wall at Oregon Pipe National Monument. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. The governor and state health officials held a press briefing this afternoon to talk about Arizona's preparations to fight the coronavirus. The state is now testing for the coronavirus with local labs capable of testing up to 450 samples a day. So far, 26 people have been tested, with 24 coming back negative. One confirmed case previously reported has recovered, and the results of another are pending.
We have an outstanding team at the Arizona Department of Health Services led by Dr. Kara Christ. And I believe that there's no one better in the country at this.
I want to assure everyone that the public health system in Arizona is well prepared to respond to the spread of COVID-19 in Arizona. We will continue to provide the public with the most up-to-date information and advice on how to keep yourself and your loved ones safe.
Dr. Christ added that the state will issue guidance for schools later this week and guidance for long-term nursing facilities after that. She added that Arizona is still considered low risk for COVID-19 unless someone has traveled to areas affected by the virus. Also today, Vice President Pence and national health officials held a White House briefing on the coronavirus and confirmed 43 domestic cases in the U.S. with another 48 involving those returning to the country. There have been 6 fatalities and more cases are expected, but the Vice President emphasized that the risk in the U.S. is still low.
Let's be clear. The risk to the American people of the coronavirus remains low, according to all of the experts that we're working with across the government.
The Vice President added that a vaccine could go to clinical trials within the next 6 weeks and then possibly be available to the public by the end of the year. Arizona's groundwater management policy is considered a national model for effective water use, but there are parts of the state where those regulations don't apply, and in those areas, groundwater pumping is occurring at alarming rates. Efforts to deal with the issue in the legislature have come up dry. Joining us now is Sarah Porter, director of the Kyle Center for Water Policy at ASU's Morrison Institute for Public Policy. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. This groundwater pumping situation in rural Arizona, how serious are we talking here?
In terms of the number of people that it's affecting, it doesn't apply. It is not an issue for well over 80% of the population. But it's serious because the people that it is affecting are affected very, very badly. Essentially, in parts of the state that are not active management areas where we have a cap and trade system on groundwater, or irrigation non-expansion areas where we prohibited new irrigated agriculture in 1980, those parts of the state have almost no regulation of groundwater. So anyone can come, move in, drill a well, and use the water. And that means that people who have more shallow wells in some parts of the state are now experiencing people coming in, digging deeper wells, digging big wells that extract a lot of water, and their wells are going dry.
And the folks that are coming in with those deeper wells, a lot of these, maybe perhaps most, if not all, out-of-state, out-of-country mega farms?
In many, many instances, that's the growth that's really concerning people. It's the large industrial farms that are moving in, developing wells, and dropping the water table.
How far are these water tables dropping?
In some instances, it's as much as 300 feet. So now the water table isn't one big consistent table underneath the entire state. The state is made up of over 20 basins, many basins and sub-basins. But where the big ag is moving in, there are certain hot spots where big industrial agriculture has moved in recently, fairly recently, developed big wells that are often much, much deeper than the wells that people who've been there for a while have developed, and are just simply extracting a lot more water than had been. So demand has shot up in those places. So
where these water tables are dropping and at an alarming rate, according to some reports, is this irreversible?
Do you want to think in terms of geologic time or in terms of human lifetime?
Yeah, we better stick with human lifetime.
Theoretically, in geologic time, it's not irreversible as long as the aquifer doesn't collapse because so much water has been taken out. But yeah, in terms of human lifetimes, it's very hard to imagine a scenario in which the water can be restored. What we need to think about is are there steps that those communities can take to manage demand so that they have water for their long-term needs? That's really the solution now.
Are some Western towns, are they legitimately at risk of losing water?
There are communities in Arizona in these non-managed areas where, losing water means, technically that would mean perhaps you couldn't dig a well deep enough to access water. I think under that definition it's hard to say, but there's certainly places in Arizona where it will not be feasible for the average homeowner who lives off of water from their own well to have water.
With all this in mind, is it time to install a rural management area like we have in other parts of the state?
There actually is authority under Arizona statutes for the director of the Department of Water Resources to basically designate new areas where more irrigated agriculture cannot be established. But the criteria that the director is allowed to use to decide whether or not to designate a new irrigation non-expansion area are very limited. And so the director isn't allowed to look at the likelihood of new agriculture moving in and sinking new wells. The director can only look at what's going on now and project the amount of demand that's going on now into the future. So the fix may be for the criteria to be expanded a little to allow the director to look at likely future pumping. And the whole intent of this statute is that the communities themselves would request the designation. So it's not the heavy hand of the state coming in and saying, not here, not here, not here.
Right.
It's really the communities coming in and working with the department to determine whether or not a designation should be established.
Are the communities making enough noise about this right now?
It's difficult. I think there are variations in people's perceptions of the problem. Certainly people who are now hauling water, who were getting water from their well before, are alarmed, and some people are trying to do something about it, but other people haven't necessarily been impacted. And so the perceptions of how serious a problem it is really vary.
So, last question. Has this hit a crisis level in Arizona?
I think it is a crisis when somebody's well goes dry or when many people's wells go dry because a big ag operation moved in next door and dug deeper wells. It's certainly a crisis for those individuals who are experiencing this. The impact of that crisis won't be felt statewide in the way other water crises might have much broader impact. But it's a problem that can be fixed, and it's bad enough that it's time for the state to look at fixes so that at least we could stop it from happening over and over again. It's time to fix this problem.
It's time to do something. Sarah Porter, Kyle Center for Water Policy at the Morrison Institute. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And later on Arizona Horizon, outrage over the blasting for a border wall at a national monument in Arizona.
Next time on Antiques Roadshow, which treasure from 1986 is more valuable today?
I was visiting Las Vegas. I was in the casino. I saw Michael Jordan sit down at a table, and I sat down at the table with him.
You see on the news that he sells a painting at auction for $90 million. I'm sure we've got that Hockney over there on the wall.
Find out more next time on Antiques Roadshow from the Desert Botanical Garden in Phoenix, Arizona.
Coming in March to Arizona PBS.
I was asking about the war. Are the British Army going to help us?
Poland has fallen. The German Army and Air Force may prove too much for any European neighbor that stands in its way. On the streets, one question. What will Britain do next?
I'm I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, a health emergency is declared in states where the coronavirus is spreading in the U.S. Coming up after Cronkite News and Arizona Horizon.
Endorsing political candidates is a newspaper tradition, but the Arizona Republic recently announced that it was breaking with that tradition and no longer publishing such endorsements. Here to tell us why is Phil Boaz. He's the Republic's editorial page director. Good to see you.
Good to be back.
Thanks for being. Why no more endorsements?
We're transitioning year by year to the internet. We've been doing it for 25 years, and some of the traditions that we've had as a newspaper, centuries-old traditions like newspaper endorsements, editorials, are going into decline as we move more toward the internet and to different audiences, different kinds of readership.
Does the readership and the audience right now not want to hear what the Republic recommends?
Well, what we're hearing now, and this is from new readers on the internet, I have to explain a little bit about newspapers and where they're going. In order for us to be sustainable as a business in the future, we have to grow our audience a lot larger online than we did in print. In order to make it sustainable, to make the business model work, that means we have to go and attract new audiences, new people who weren't traditional newspaper readers. And it's those readers, when we go to them, they tell us they don't like us playing kingmaker. They don't like us telling them which box to check when it comes election time. And so we're starting to back off of that, and we're changing that.
And yet there are those who depend quite a bit on the paper that they trust, especially for some of those down ballot races. They haven't been paying. They barely know who these candidates are. They look forward to your recommendations on
Right. Well, what we've started doing, and we started doing this some time ago, but that is providing guidance on how to approach those races so people have a better understanding of it and a better way and process of going toward the ballot. And they've really appreciated that. And we did it a couple of years ago, and we got really great feedback and a lot of traffic to those pieces, but we weren't telling them who to vote for.
Now, are you having the individual columnists suggest who to vote for? I mean, will an E.J. Montini or a Lori Roberts or Robert Robb say, I'm going for Trump or I'm going for whomever?
Unlikely that they're going to be doing anything that explicitly, but they'll be writing about how they see the race. And you'll hear their opinions, but you'll see a face and a name on there. It won't be the unsigned institutional voice that's speaking to you. It'll be columnists who are talking to you.
You mentioned the unsigned voice. How were those endorsements worked out?
So we have an editorial board. The editorial board is basically a debating club. We get together every week and we talk about the issues, and we come together on to a consensus on what we think should be the institutional voice of the paper on a given issue. And in the past, it would be a given candidate. And we would have a cavalcade of candidates coming in, and we'd be interviewing them throughout the election season, and then would finally come forth with endorsements. That takes an enormous amount of time to do that, and we're going to take a lot of that time now that we were spent interviewing candidates and doing columns as the race develops and writing a lot more about the races as they're developing.
You know, and you mentioned, you know, that the readers were alienated. I mean, it was part of the process here. But there are those who say, who cares if the readers are alienated? Your job is not necessarily to give readers what they want, but what they need. How would you respond
Right.
to that?
Well, I would say that a lot of these columns that we'll be writing are going to upset people. So we've never been afraid to upset people, and that's not what this is about. We stand in there and take the hits every day because we write things every single day that upset people. This is about new readers who are telling us, don't go that extra step and tell us who to vote for. Don't intrude in the electoral process like that.
How much did the endorsement of Hillary Clinton in 2016 affect this decision? Because you guys made national headlines, the first time you've ever endorsed a Democratic presidential candidate.
Yeah.
National headlines, lots of blowback. Had to have played a factor.
Yeah, it was enormous blowback, and we had changed something we hadn't done in our first 126 years. We'll never do anything like that again or see that moment again. So let's say that the Republic, let's say we had gone ahead and kept with endorsements and maybe endorsed another Democrat like Joe Biden. Nobody would be surprised. None of our readers would have been surprised. We would not have had the kind of blowback that we saw last time. This is not about that. I stood there and took it. I got a lot of angry phone calls and email. I actually enjoyed it. I had a good time dealing with all that.
So what's the response been so far since you made the announcement?
Actually, surprisingly positive. Nationally, very positive. Locally, mixed, but I expected a lot more upset readers, and it's it's a mix right now. It's about 50-50.
What about the response at the paper?
You get a mix there too. I've had colleagues tell me they like it, and colleagues tell me they don't. I had a best friend send me an email, not a journalist, telling me that he's calling bull on all of that. And I had to try to explain to him, no.
And real quick, we've got like 30 seconds left here, but I saw one national publication say it's cowardly for a paper not to make endorsements simply because they're concerned about alienating readers.
Yeah, well, we made maybe the toughest endorsement in our history, and we stand by it today. We have never backed off from that. We're going to continue to write columns that make people angry. We do it all the time. We're not afraid of blowback from the public.
Phil Boas, Arizona Republican. No more things like initiatives and other kinds of things, yes, but political candidates, no.
Well, yes, we'll still do initiatives. It's not felt to be as much of an intrusion on the political process.
Phil, good to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We want to hear from you. Submit your questions, comments, and concerns via email at arizonahorizon@asu.edu.
Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument is a 500-mile wilderness preserve that is home to a wide variety of plants and animals synonymous with the Southwest. It's also home to a border wall building project that opponents say threatens the area's fragile ecosystem. Susan Lasovich reports.
It's quite possible that the loudest sound you'll hear in Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument is the crunch of your shoes on the dry desert earth, unless your hike takes you to its southernmost boundary. Cranes, tractors, and dynamite are transforming the landscape here in order to build a 30-foot steel border wall. That includes Monument Hill, seen in the distance, which is the site of what U.S. Customs and Border Protection calls controlled blasting. People who come to the park admire its towering saguaro, ocotillo, and Oregon pipe, the only place in the world where its namesake cactus grows wild. Now some visitors say they're making the pilgrimage to this nature area to see a man-made creation. Margaret Bullitt Jonas is an Episcopalian priest who traveled from Massachusetts.
Human beings are in the process of actively destroying the natural world that God entrusted to our care. And this wound is heartbreaking to watch these bulldozers, to watch the way that this wall is dividing human community from human community and dividing natural earth communities from other earth communities, splitting us apart from each other.
The wall replaces fencing that allowed mountain lions, desert bighorn, and many other animals to migrate. Construction requires about 85,000 gallons of water each day from an aquifer to make concrete for its foundation.
Water is life in the desert, and draining the desert of its most valuable resource to build this wall will have impacts that last longer than our lifetimes. This aquifer, the water in the aquifer is thousands of years old. It doesn't simply regenerate.
The aquifer feeds Quito Baquito Springs, home to an endangered fish and turtle that can only be found here. Park rangers refer questions about the wall's impact to Customs and Border Protection, which said in a statement that an environmental monitor is present for the construction. This 517 square mile park was set aside in 1937 to preserve a piece of pristine Sonoran desert habitat. In order to build a wall here, the Center for Biological Diversity says 41 laws have been waived, including the National Environmental Policy Act, the Endangered Species Act, the Clean Air Act, and the Clean Water Act. Those rules are being waived under a post-9/11 law, which allows exemptions in cases of national emergency. The Trump administration considers its efforts to secure the border just that. It's being challenged in court. Meanwhile, construction continues with money allocated for the Pentagon.
We've filed more than half a dozen lawsuits against different aspects of wall construction. Most recently, we just appealed one of those cases to the Supreme Court, challenging the waiver of all of these critical environmental and cultural resource laws. We're hopeful that a judge will step in and stop some of this destruction, but until that happens, there is an incredible amount of irreversible damage being done.
Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument is a UNESCO Biodiversity Reserve, a designation given to help protect a wilderness area.
Oh, it is an anise. You're right, it is an anise.
This is an issue for anyone who is concerned with the environment in any way and the place where we live, and the realization that we're all connected, and if that's the case, this is going to kill us just like it is all of the wildlife.
Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument endures scorching temperatures and extended droughts. How it adapts to a 30-mile-long wall is a new challenge that critics say may be the most punishing of all.
Border wall construction at the monument is also drawing Instagram protests from the likes of Leonardo DiCaprio and Ellen DeGeneres, who together have more than 120 million Instagram followers. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alice Ferris, and welcome to the Arizona PBS studios, and I hope that you are appreciating Arizona Horizon tonight, because this type of program, Arizona Horizon in particular, is so important to our community, because it is Arizona's only program devoted to Arizona issues such as the Arizona legislature and national issues that affect all Arizonans. So if you want to make sure that programs just like this continue to be here on Arizona PBS, it's important that you give us a call during this time right now. Because during these challenging times, isn't it reassuring that shows like Horizon can tackle the issues that are important to all of us? With Ted Simons as an award-winning journalist, he is going to be there to ask the hard questions and make sure that the interview, even though they include those hard questions, is conducted with civility and respect. So if you want to make sure that this program continues to have a place on Arizona PBS, this program is waiting for your support right now. Now, when you make the call or go online, we would love to send you an Arizona Horizon coffee mug with our thanks. But that's not the only thing that you get when you support Arizona Horizon. You'll get the great feeling knowing that you're making sure that quality journalism continues to have a home on Arizona PBS. Because remember, the programs you count on really do count on you. And thanks.
Hello, I'm Bill Moyers. I strongly believe that the quality of our democracy depends upon the quality of our journalism. That's why public broadcasting has played such an important part in democracy over these last 50-plus years of its existence. I mean, this is a place where independent journalism has been able, without concern for the powers that be, to tell what you need to know, to report what is important to you, week in and week out, whether it's the News Hour or Frontline or any of the great documentaries brought to you by POV or Independent Lens. What you can do for journalism and for democracy is to support this station. Because, remember, the programs you count on, the journalism you count on, counts on you. Thank you.
It really is so critical to make sure there continues to be a place where quality journalism has a home, and that place is here, right here on Arizona PBS. Now, please keep in mind that Arizona Horizon is just one part of Arizona PBS's integrated news and information service. With Cronkite News and Horizonte, you'll find local programs with respectful reporting from across our state, delving into hot-button topics affecting each of us every day. The PBS NewsHour, BBC World News, and NHK Newsline provide a global perspective to international and national topics. And our affiliation with the Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication allows us to provide unparalleled resources, helping to produce the next generation of respected journalists, offering a real-world education for the digital media world of today and tomorrow. Remember, the programs and services you count on really do count on you for support. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Paula Kerger, President and CEO of PBS. I'd like to tell you about a terrific new membership benefit called Arizona PBS Passport. With a qualifying donation, Passport brings more than 1,000 hours of great PBS and local programming to your computer, phone, or digital media player. You can catch up on shows you may have missed or revisit some of your favorites. The best part is that you can watch whenever you want. When you make your qualifying donation, you'll help to make all of the programs you love on this station possible. So don't delay. I know that you're going to love Arizona PBS Passport, so please make that donation right now. And thank you for your support.
For more than 25 years, Arizona Horizon has been an integral part of our daily broadcast schedule. Thanks to Arizona PBS and Arizona Horizon, you and I have had complete coverage of all the big stories affecting Arizona. In just the last few months, Arizona Horizon has brought you election coverage with debates, both sides of hot-button political topics, state and local budget issues, and dialogue when it comes to education and healthcare. Unlike conventional newscasts, Arizona Horizon goes beyond the headlines and sound bites. The program's format of pre-taped reports and studio discussion offers viewers an opportunity to explore all sides of each issue. Arizona Horizon reports examine a wide range of subjects, including politics, consumer affairs, the environment, business, health concerns, and social and legal issues. What you may not know is that Arizona Horizon relies on your support now more than ever. More than 85% of this station's direct operating revenue comes from the Arizona community, people just like you and me. So please, go to your phone and call the number on your screen. Become an Arizona PBS supporter right now. For those of you who've called in your support for Arizona Horizon, a big thanks. You really do make a difference. And if you haven't already called, it's never too late. Call or go online today. Now, another great program that you make possible here on your public television station, Arizona PBS.
Support for Arizona PBS comes from viewers like you and from
Whitfield Nursery, proud to support Arizona PBS, a Valley tradition since 1946. Over 200 acres of Arizona-grown trees, citrus, and palms. Complete custom design and installation. And Whitfield Nursery still does the digging. WhitfieldNursery.com.
At Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Scottsdale, we don't do just one thing to change the lives of kids in our community. We do whatever it takes. We qualify for both the dollar for dollar charitable and foster care tax credit. Change a child's future at bgcs.org.
Can you all live the ultimate retirement? You can.
Acclaimed personal finance expert Susie Orman provides essential advice to make your retirement more successful and secure.
It's never too soon to begin.
Tonight at 7 on Arizona PBS. Explore new ideas and new worlds here on Arizona PBS, a community service of Arizona State University.
Whether their wingspans are 3.5 inches or 9.5 feet, simply watching birds do what they do can be a rewarding pastime. Come along with us as we travel the state to enjoy bird watching across Arizona.